Hey guys, welcome to Ebenezer Baptist Church Students Quarantine Edition. It's been a couple of weeks since I've seen you guys, so I figured I'd go ahead and make a video and just give y'all a shout out, man. I'm going crazy being stuck in the house and not being able to see my students. I love you guys so much, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing you again on Wednesday night, be able to worship with you guys and share a message with you guys. But we can't do that right now. There's a bunch of craziness going on in the world, and that's okay. That's okay. That's part of life. We never know when stuff like this is going to happen, and we never think stuff like this can happen. But here we are. We are stuck in our houses and stuck with no school and stuck with our parents schooling us, doing the homeschool deal, and I know they're all super excited about that. I've not seen one parent complain on Facebook about being home with their kids. That's a joke. But tonight, I just want to talk about some of the things that I've actually learned during this quarantine, during this pandemic that they're calling it, of the coronavirus, the COVID-19. And I've always encouraged you guys to always be a student, always be a learner, and on the lookout for what God's trying to teach you during these times and during all times. We should always be learners, always have our eyes open to what God's teaching us. So tonight, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to open up the Word to 1 Peter 5, verses 5 through 11, and just march through some of the things that God's been teaching me over this season in my life. There's two specific lessons that I want to talk about tonight that I've learned during this time of this pandemic in our country. Two lessons that God has been teaching me through this time in my life, in our life, in the life of our world, and I want to share those with you tonight. So, as I said before, the passage that we're going to be talking about tonight is 1 Peter 5, 5 through 11. 1 Peter 5, 5 through 11. And before we even get started, I just want to share those two major lessons with you before we get started. That way we'll just go ahead and get our two major points, two major lessons, and that way we'll be able to see them in the text as we go along. So the first lesson is a lesson in humility. A lesson in humility. And then that second lesson that we want to talk about tonight is a lesson in habits. A lesson in habits. We all have all types of habits that we make in our lives, and it's times like these that kind of break up the habits that we normally have, the habits that we've set up in our lives, the habits that we get up and do each and every day, our routines, you could say. And it's times like these that really have us question why we have some of those habits, make us question the habits that we have in our lives. Tonight we're going to talk about some godly habits, a lesson in habits that we should have in our lives, some good, healthy habits that we should have in our lives. But first is the lesson in humility, and we're going to see that in verses 5 through 6. So let's go ahead and jump in the text together. 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 5 through 11. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Got you, parents. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility towards one another, for God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time He may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on Him, because He cares for you. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. After you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. To him be the dominion forever and ever. First thing I want us to see is in verses 5 and 6, and it's a lesson in humility. The first lesson in humility that we need to look at is we need to learn how to humble ourselves to God's reality. Humble ourselves to God's reality. And we see it in verse 5 here. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. It's not me telling you that you need to listen to your parents during this time of quarantine, but you do. That's not what we're going to talk about tonight. But you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Clothe yourself, all of you, with humility towards one another, for God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. We need to humble ourselves to God's reality. So what is that reality? I truly believe this could be a turning point for some of our young people and even some of our older people. Anybody at this time right now, really. But it can be a turning point because I really believe that no trial should be wasted. I really believe in my heart that no trial should be wasted as a believer. So as we look at this trial, what does this trial mean to us? Throughout all this craziness that we've been that we've been living through, a few things that I believe God has brought to light about the true reality in which we live is the reality that the people that we think are most important, the people that we think actually make this world go round, really aren't as important as the media makes them out to be, really aren't as important as the social media makes them out to be, really aren't as important as what we think they are sometimes. And the reason I say that is, well, hang on a second. Before I go any farther, I just want to say what I'm about to say might not apply to you. But it's been true in my life. For far too long, I feel like I've seen people look down their noses at people that truly make this world go round, that truly make this country what it is, that truly make life possible for each and every one of us. We're not living in a world of hunter-gatherers anymore. It's not like that. We depend on other people to live our daily lives. And I don't know if you've been there, and you may not have been, but I know in my own life, there's been times where I've looked at people and the jobs that they do, and I'm not appreciative of the job that they do. I'm not. I've found myself looking at some jobs and thinking that they may be lesser of me, and my heart's been wrenched for those people during this time of this coronavirus outbreak, because I've really had my eyes open to God's reality that He really does use some of the most humble people in all the world, and the most humble of jobs to actually make this world go round, to actually make life as we know it possible. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble, and it's these people that we see that aren't losing their jobs right now. It's these people that we see that are getting up each and every day during this time and this season, that really are still making a difference, that really are still actually making life as we know it possible. And I'm so grateful for them. But I just want to encourage you, students of Ebenezer, and students out there watching, that no job is below us. No job is not important. We look at these people and the jobs that they're in, and we often think that that's something that we would never want to do. That's something that is beneath us, and it's not like that. It's not like that. These are the people that we depend on the most during times like this. In a matter of 10 days, we've went from our biggest heroes in America being some of the NBA stars, some of the NCAA college basketball players, the people that we look up to the most, and people that we aspire to be like. And these are the people that are sitting back in quarantine, just like we are right now. Just another normal guy that can't go to work, playing a game. They're looking at losing their salaries because they can't go and play a basketball game. But at the same time, God gives grace to the humble, and allowing the people that actually keep the world going from a day-to-day basis. He's keeping them in jobs. He's keeping their livelihoods right in front of them. He's allowing them to get up and go to work every day and provide for their families. And that's the grace of God. That's the grace of God. And I just want you to have your eyes open to the reality of it's these humble heroes in our society that are actually the true heroes each and every day. And we choose to not believe that. We choose to not see that. And today, I want you to have your eyes open to God's reality. That is the reality that we have before us. Our nation has quickly realized how important the people that work in grocery stores are. I just went to Publix this morning, and I don't think I've ever been so thankful and so grateful to a couple of ladies that were checking me out in the grocery store as I was today. We don't realize how important truck drivers really are until there's a national toilet paper shortage and no one can find any toilet paper. You know who's bringing the toilet paper in? It's the truck drivers. You know who's bringing in the paper towels that we use each and every day and wipe our hands off with and throw in the trash? It's the truck drivers. The people that are bringing in the gasoline so we can still get back and forth to these jobs, of those that are still having our jobs. And we take that for granted each and every day. And I just want you to realize that God gives grace to the humble, that during these times, I want you to realize that these people are the backbone of our country, that no job is beneath you. So when you go out and look for a career, I don't want you to look at different occupations and say, oh, well, I would never do that. Oh, I would never do this. Oh, I could never do that. Man, forget that. Now is the time when you need to be grateful for those people. You need to be grateful for the truck drivers. You need to be grateful for the garbage man. The garbage man is still showing up and getting the trash off your curb. You need to be grateful for the first responders. If God forbid something does happen, I can still call 911 and someone will come to the house and help me out. We realize how important the policemen are. If somebody decides to break in my house, I can still call up 911 and they'll send somebody out here to help me out. We realize how important our nurses and our doctors are. These are people that we live each and every day of our lives and never even think about. We never even think about them. And they're the people keeping the world literally livable right now. And I just want you to understand that sometimes we just need to humble ourselves, realize that God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. So even if you do go on and become this great basketball player, and I pray that you do, man, that'll be awesome. I pray that you continually look at the career that you're going into and realize that it ain't all about you. That it ain't all about you. The world don't stop because you can't dribble a basketball. The world will stop if nurses stop going to hospitals and going to work. The world will stop if doctors stop going to hospitals and going to work. So I just want you to have that spirit about you, that humble spirit about you that recognizes the importance of what other people are actually doing in this world. And I just want to echo verse 5 on 2. Just let this verse sit in your thoughts. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to your elders. Speaking specifically to the people that are in these jobs, just be subject to them. Notice and respect how much they're actually helping you right now. Clothe yourself. Put it on. Put on humility. Put on um, the characteristic of humility, and know in your heart, all of you, with humility towards one another. Have that humility towards one another. Have that humility towards His people, and don't be afraid to say thank you. Don't be afraid to say thank you. I thank those two ladies this morning at Public so much, and I was so grateful because I'm trying to keep myself away from people, and they're still going to work, and they're still coming in contact with everybody that comes to that grocery store. So have respect, clothe yourself with that humility, and thank these people for what they're actually doing for you. Second, we need to humble ourselves to God's reality. We also need to humble ourselves to God's time. Humble ourselves to God's time. Once again, I truly think that this could be a turning point for some of our young people and older people as we talk tonight. For far too long, we've been treating our time, our life, and our schedule like it's something that we deserve, and using it in any old way that we want to. We look at our time. He says in verse 6, humble yourselves therefore under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time He may exalt you. I want us to understand tonight that we need to humble ourselves to God's timing. We need to humble ourselves to the time that God has given us. God has graced us with His time. We act in this generation as if time and our life and our schedules and our repetition and our habits are something that we deserve. And I want to be here to tell you tonight that we don't deserve any time. God graces us with His time. He allows us to have that time. He allows us to have those schedules and those routines and those habits. And we're creatures of habits, and He knows that. And He allows us to have these routines. But it's times like now that I think that we need to humble ourselves to His timing. We need to surrender our lives to the mighty hand of God and allow Him to use our time in the ways that He wants us to use our time. Now is the time that we need to do that. Now is the time. Now that we have this time, our schedules have been cleared like never before. Your schedule may never be cleared like it has been in the past 10 to 14 days. As a student, you will never have this opportunity again during a school year, by the grace of God protecting this globe, to ever live through something like we're living through right now. What are you doing with that time? What are you doing with that time? Are you humbling yourself to the time that God has given you? I want to ask you, students, to use that time. I want to ask you, parents, use that time. Use that time with your kids. I made the joke about the parents and the homeschooling before, but it really does get to me when I realize that as hard as it may seem to do the homeschooling thing, use this time. Use this time as an opportunity to grow closer to your student. They may not know it and they may not express it to you, but they crave that time with you guys. They crave time with their parents, and I know some of you are sitting back like, oh, he couldn't care less about the time that I'm spending with him. I talk to these students, and sometimes, man, they really feel like you might not care because you say things like, I don't know about this homeschooling thing. My kids are getting on my nerves. It's and they probably are getting on your nerves, but it may be hurting their feelings when you say things like that, because they don't get to spend as much time with you as what they would like. Our schedules are so packed nowadays. Our student schedules are so packed nowadays, in between school, work, sports, friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever it may be. Now is the time. Now is the time to spend that time with your student. Get to know your student like you've never before. Get to know your child like you've never before. Seize the day, seize the time that God has given you. Humble yourself to God's time, and allow yourself to use that time to grow closer, and rest in it. Rest in it. Something that has been a great encouragement to me is getting on my social media and seeing you guys doing things that I don't normally see you guys doing. I get on social media and I see people sitting down with their kids in the afternoon and actually eating a meal at the dinner table. I've spoken to many parents, and some of them say we hadn't got to eat a meal at home all week with our kids. And now we have that time. Now we have that time. Cease that time. Sit down with them in the afternoons and do some, I don't want to say craft, but sit down and just doodle with your kids. Sit down and just doodle with your students. And students, put down the video games. Put down the video games. Put down the Instagram. Put down the TikTok. Stop making your dance videos and just hang out with your parents. You might not ever get this time. You might not ever get this time. And I know some of you are about to graduate and you're going to go off to college and you'll look back at this time. I'm telling you, you're not thinking I know what I'm talking about, but you're going to look back at this time and say, man, I wish I'd have spent that 2 weeks. I wish I'd have spent that 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever this thing brings about. You're going to look back and say, I wish I would have spent that time just hanging out with my sister. I wish I'd have just spent that time hanging out with my dad, my mom, whatever it may be. Put down the video game. You got the rest of your stinking life to play some goofy video game when you'll never have this time again. You'll never have this time again. Cease today. Cease today. Spend time with your parents. And I also want you to rest in it. I also want you to rest in it. It breaks my heart when I see y'all come in on Wednesdays and Sundays and y'all are always tired. You're always tired because of the routines that you've got yourself in, the schedules that you've caught yourself up in. Use this time to rest. Use this time to rest. Use this time to grow closer to your family. Use this time to grow closer to God. I have enjoyed the time that I have been able to spend with God and on the phone with God's people over the last week or so. And just being able to rest. Being able to rest. My schedules in the afternoon are cleared out. I'm not running 1,000 miles an hour at 1,000 different places right now. Actually being able to spend time with Tegan. I'm actually being able to spend time with Cassie. I'm spending time on the phone with you guys. I'm spending time texting you guys. And it's been such a blessing. So rest in that. Rest in that. Pastor Stephen just talked about it this morning. He talked about being able to rest. Being able to rest. So we need to rest in this time. God has blessed us richly. We look outside and we see everything going on in the world, and it is sad. My heart breaks for those people that are losing loved ones right now, people that are passing away due to this virus. But God takes our trials and He doesn't waste it. And I praise God for that. And He's given us an opportunity now to do some things that we've not been doing in the past. And thank God for it. I'm not making light of the quarantine situation. I'm not making light of people that are actually hurting due directly to this disease. And it may affect us and it may affect my family. And I promise I'm not making light of that. But don't miss God's blessing in the trial, because there are bad things going on in the world. Don't miss God's blessings in the trial. Humble ourselves to the time that God's given us and allow ourselves to use it for His glory. And secondly, the second lesson that I want to talk about that I mentioned earlier is a lesson in habits. A lesson in habits. And we see it in verses 7 through 11. And I'm going to read this passage one more time, and then I'm just going to bounce through these things. 7 through 11. He says, casting all your anxieties on Him because He cares for you. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to His eternal glory in Christ, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. To Him be the dominion forever and ever. Let's bounce through these habits that I'm encouraging to make a habit in your life. Make these things a habit in your life. Make it a habit to remember that He cares. He says, cast your anxieties on me because He cares for you. Sometimes when I think about this passage, I think that when we say, cast our anxieties on him, cast our anxieties on him, we're thinking like, I don't know if he wants all this. I don't know if he cares for us. He calls us children. He says, what kind of father, if his child came to him and asked him for a loaf of bread, would give him a rock? Our Heavenly Father cares for us. Cast our anxieties on him. Cast our anxiety. Now is the time of anxieties. We're all anxious right now. And I'll be honest with you, man. That's parts of this thing that scare me to death. Um, I have family members that have these pre-existing conditions, and older folks in my family, and I'm scared too. I'm scared too, and it's okay to be scared, but we don't rest in that fear. We don't rest in that fear. I'm continually just casting my anxieties on God. He cares for me. Cast them on him. He cares for me. Cast them on him. He cares for me. Second thing, make it a habit to remain watchful. Make it a habit to remain watchful. He says, being sober-minded, be watchful. When I think about sober-mindedness, I think about a mind that's not conformed to this world, like he says in Romans 12:2, but being renewed, having a new mind, being watchful. When I say watchful, I'm not talking about your social media friend or what your best friend Joe has to say about this corona situation. I'm talking about be watchful about how the enemy is seeking you out right now. Be on the lookout of how the enemy's trying to sow fear in your life right now. He's trying to sow anxieties in your life. He's trying to sow depression in your life because you're missing your friends. Some of you might be missing graduation. I pray it isn't so. But do not allow Satan to have control over those thoughts. You cast those things on you cast those things on God because he cares for you. You remain watchful of how Satan is sowing these thoughts into your mind, and you give them to God. Give those things to God. Third, I want you to resist the enemy. Resist the enemy. Do not allow Satan to control your life. Lean into God. Trust in God during this time. Do not push him to resist. You're pushing him at bay, continually resisting him. Don't give him an inch, he'll take a mile. Just continue to push him off and resist him. Next, remain firm in the faith. 1 Corinthians 16:13 says, stand firm in the faith. Another passage that says firm in the faith. Stand firm in the faith. Do not be moved. Do not ever question the goodness of God. Do not ever question the word of God. Stand firm in the faith. Stand firm. Remain firm in the faith. And then realize that we're not alone. Realize that we're not alone. I know that this passage that Peter has given us, he's specifically speaking to persecution of this church and persecution coming on the people that he's writing to. When he says, same kinds of suffering are being experienced to your brotherhood throughout the world. But I want us to realize tonight, I want us to open up our minds to the fact that we're not the only ones dealing with this. We're not the only ones going through this particular trial in our lives right now. That there's many other people around the whole world suffering from this coronavirus. And some countries are worse off than us, and some aren't as bad as we are right now. But I want you to remember in your prayer life that we're not the only ones suffering. We're not the only ones suffering. Pray for these other countries that are being affected. Pray for Italy. Pray for these other countries. Don't forget that we're not the only ones in the world. Don't forget that we're not the only ones in the world. And use that somehow, some way. Use that to share the gospel with others. When everyone's talking about how bad it is on us, how bad it is this, do some research and see how other countries are being affected. And be like, well, we also need to remember that Italy's lost a bunch of people. We also need to remember that China's lost a bunch of people. We also need to remember that Brazil's on lockdown right now. We also need to remember these other brothers and sisters around the world. And there are brothers and sisters around the world showing the light of the gospel. I keep seeing these videos of people out on their balcony singing glory to God and praises to God because of how good He is. And He is good. And He is a big God. And He knows exactly what's going on. And I don't want us to sit here and think like, where is God in this situation? God is moving in this situation. God is moving in this situation. I want you to use this time as a segue to be able to share the gospel with others. Be like, look, man, I know that's bad right now, but I know of a greater hope. I know of a God that loves you very much. And the way to Him is Jesus Christ. He's the only way, the way, the truth, the life. And you can have a relationship with God, the same God that created us, the same God that sustains us, the same God that gives us His time, same God that gives us our life. Use this time to share the gospel with those that we love. Use this time. Seize the day. And then lastly, rest in the promises of God. I'm going to echo um, verses 10 and 11 for us tonight. And then I'm going to pray. I can't wait to see you guys again. It has been extremely troubling for me to not be able to just hang out with my students. I deeply miss our Wednesday night gatherings. I deeply miss my Sunday school class, and just know I'm here for it. If I can do anything for you, if you need to talk, whatever it is, man, just reach out to me, and use this time. Use this time. So I'm going to echo verses 10 and 11 for us tonight, and then I'm going to pray, and then I'll see you in a week or so. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to this eternal glory in Christ, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. To Him be the dominion forever and ever. Amen. God, I thank you tonight that you don't make mistakes, that we do live in your dominion, Father. You have sovereign rule over the whole earth, Lord. There's nothing that happens outside of your will, God. And Father, we rest in that tonight. Let all my students and parents rest in that truth tonight, God, knowing that you are good, that you are big, and everything happening in this world right now is through you and for your glory, God. We may not see it, we may not ever see it on this side of heaven, God, but Father, we pray now that we seize the opportunities and the lessons that you are teaching us, Father, during this time. God, we love you, and we thank you for an opportunity to open your word and study tonight. And I pray for each and every one of my students, God. I lift them up to you, Father. I pray you be with them. God, I pray you strengthen them during this time. I pray you cast out all fear. Allow them to cast their anxieties on you during this time, and just rest in your goodness. Rest in your grace. I love you and thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Bye, guys.